Alright guys, thank you for joining us for our first Transfer Panel.
It's the same.
We have food and drink if you guys feel inclined. Let's just get it started. So this is our table of contents. We're going to start with our panelist introductions, and then we have a few moderated questions. We're going to finish off with a student Q&A session. So these are our panelists, our lovely panelists. Can we get a round of applause, please? So we'll start with Lupe and then go down the line. If you guys could just introduce where you transferred to after graduating from Chaffey, what you studied, and anything else you guys feel inclined to say.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Guadalupe Becerra. Sorry, I'm a little sick. I'm a little sick right now, so sorry if I'm a little low. I graduated from Chaffey last spring. My major was in engineering. I'm going to Poly Pomona right now for computer engineering. What else? Sorry.
And Lupe just graduated class of 24.
Yeah, 24, yeah.
From Chaffey College.
Okay, so hi, my name is Vianey. So I graduated back in Chaffey in 2019. I ended up transferring to UCLA, where I pursued sociology, and after graduating in UCLA in 2022, I did my master's, which I graduated last year from Cal State San Bernardino with a master's in social worker, and I'm currently a full-time therapist working at a foster agency.
Hello everybody, my name is Gursimar. I graduated from Chaffey in spring 2022. I went to UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business after and graduated from there in this past summer, 2024. Now I'm working as a finance consultant at KPMG.
Alright, thank you guys for your questions. And then we'll start with our first question. So to kick us off, starting from your roots, how would you describe your time spent as a Chaffey student? And if anyone wants to start first, we don't have to have any specific order.
Okay, I was like, who's first? Alright, I can go first. The way I would describe my experience at Chaffey, I would say it was informative and eye-opening. For me, the most valuable experience here was just trying to find myself and trying to find what I want to do. And Chaffey allowed for that safe support system as well as some room for failure to be able to explore that journey. Another big advantage I saw here was the small class sizes, the professors actually caring, the faculty actually caring for us in our journey. And thirdly, the formative part was coming together with different students. We were together in our classes. Being together with a group and community of people that are coming from different walks of life is something that you don't really get at different universities, from different backgrounds, different age groups, different cultures, people being readmitted students and so forth. So they all come in and bring their life learnings for you. That was eye-opening for me.
I can go next. So for me, honestly, when I look back at my Chaffey experience, I always see it with a big nostalgic, bittersweet feeling to it. And bittersweet in terms of like, I really got a lot of resources here. I got so much help, a lot of aid, a lot of faculty, teachers, professors that really believed in me, that even to this day, they were the ones that wrote my connections, my letter of references. They're the ones that if I apply to a job, they'll call them, which it makes it feel more familiarized. Like these are people that don't just care about you being your student, they actually want to know where you're going, which I think when you come into any college, you want to feel that way, that you're actually being welcomed and that you have a support system of not just students, but faculty too that want to believe in you. So it's honestly just been the best experience. Like Simar said too, you come with different backgrounds. I've met so many amazing people that even if I just had them for one class, I still think back to those moments, like they really taught me a lot. I learned so much from a lot of different people that I've learned to this day of like their experiences, and you know, we all come from different journeys, and when you realize it too, we're all here to better ourselves. So no timeline is ever perfect, but your timeline that you're in, that's the one that's important for you. You shouldn't compare your timeline with anyone else.
Yeah.
All right, so when I came to Chaffey, it was around 2018. I was a single mom. I had dropped out of high school when I was around 18. So when I came back, I was a bit scared, and I was like, okay, I'm starting really late. I was 21 going back to school, and I was like, I don't even know where to start. So when I came, I was kind of worried, but then I found a lot of resources at Chaffey that helped me, and a lot of other women around me that helped empower me and help push me to do better things. I used to be very introverted. I'm an engineer. A lot of engineers are introverted. So when I started working here, I started as a student worker, and a lot of the women around me were like, hey, why don't you try out for this job? Hey, get ready to transfer. I had for instance, Masha from the Transfer Center. She was there with me every step of the way, and she believed in me. A lot of people believed in me. Even there was people that didn't. They were like, computer engineering, that's a difficult major for a woman. It's gonna be very competitive, Cal Poly. But I still had all that, those people around me that were at Chaffey that were saying, you got this, Lupe, you can do this. And at Chaffey, honestly, there are so many. You're gonna meet a lot of different people here, but a lot of people that you can relate to as well. And I kind of found like a family and a lot of friends here. And even at Cal Poly, I have friends that started at Chaffey and we all transferred to Cal Poly together. Now we're doing engineering at Cal Poly. So I found a family at Chaffey, to be honest. And I still continue to grow with them all the time. Even now I work here at Chaffey, we're all growing as women, we're all growing as people, furthering our education, always trying to be better versions of ourselves.
That's amazing. Yeah, and just a little bit of a shameless plug. I would say come into the Transfer
Yes.
Center. If you guys have any
Transfer
questions
Center.
along the process, we are open to help you no matter what. And then we'd like next to hear a little bit more about your transition from community college to the university. And just like overall net positive, just how that went down for you guys.
I guess I'll start. Since I just transferred to Cal Poly, I realized that there are a lot of benefits at Chaffey. So transitioning to a university, it was kind of hard because it's like we got all this help here, but then we got to the university and it's like where's everybody? Where's all the help? Right here it felt like people were holding your hand through the whole process, and over there they're kind of let you go. You're on your own. It's a bigger world. Right here, it's like a little town. Over there, it's a big world, and they have less resources. But I'm not gonna say there isn't resources. So there was a little. You feel that imposter syndrome going in. So when I walked in, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. I was kind of scared because I was like, this is hard. I don't really know anyone. I don't know what the resources are. The classes are hard. I don't know how to get tutoring. I don't know. But after a while, you start to build relationships and meet new people. So it's definitely, I just started, so this is my second semester at Cal Poly, but I definitely am meeting more people in my field, and it's helping me, again, like grow as a person. And you're definitely gonna be scared. It's always gonna be scary to go to a new place, but you're always gonna meet people that you can relate to and you can build with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love to hear that.
I can share. So for me, when I look back at it, so when I graduated in 2020, I ended up going to UCLA, and how she said, you're here, you're very focused, you have the whole support. When you go into university, the support, it's not that it's not there, but you also have to be the one to go find it. So one thing that I would say to any students transferring, start finding connections out there, whether if it's in your major, find people in that major that that maybe you can connect during the summer, because a lot of universities, they'll do like summer programs where you can meet up with your current cohort and take advantage of that. Not just that, but a lot of universities know that students transferred, so they do have a specific transfer organization. So for UCLA, we had the UCLA transfers, where I actually met a lot of UCLA students that were transferring. Even if they weren't the same major, it was just nice to know, hey, we were Chaffey students now pursuing university, let's be in it together. But for sure, I would say there is a lot of support still there, but take advantage of it, join jobs that are gonna connect you to more people, get connected with other students that have already been there that could guide you too with extra help that you need. But I would say it's not so scary, but you do have to be the adult guiding yourself. But again, don't be scared, because there is a lot of support, and just try to find people that could support you, uplift you, and make a connection there too.
Awesome.
I think really solid points. I'll second all of those. Another thing I would add on to that is when we're in Chaffey or when we're in a community college, the academic rigor, pragmatically speaking, is a lot on the lower end of it. Whereas when you go to these universities, their classes and their extracurriculars, clubs, all of that gets a lot more rigorous. So there is quite a bit of a gap that you're expected to jump in a matter of very few months. If anything, you're expected to hit the ground running. So I would say the reason why I'm mentioning this is, one, be ready for that, be mentally prepared for that, have your lifestyle already accommodate, like make more space for your school. Right now, Chaffey and your other life commitments might be easier to balance, relatively. But once you get into a four-year university, you're going to find that a lot more challenging. So if you can, reduce a little bit of life commitments or another job that you're doing and integrate that into the school. That's one rigorous part that I would mention. And another thing that I think I've already mentioned is you're expected to do a lot more and tap into a lot more resources. So right now, Chaffey and the faculty might say, like, just do good in your classes, just have your GPA up. But when you go to university, everybody has good GPA. Well, not everybody has good GPA, but everybody's doing classes, right? If you want to have an edge over the applicant pool for your jobs or whatever you're trying to do next, you're expected to do more. So yeah, again, like make space for that in your lifestyle. The third thing I would mention that you can do right now as a tangible step to work towards that is what Bodhi and Aram are doing. They both connected with me just to coffee chat, virtually, just Zoom meeting, what it's like to go to Berkeley, what it's like to transfer out, what can we do now. So those tangible steps of meeting people, virtually connecting, doing coffee chats, asking your professors who they can connect you with. Professor Purcell connected us all, and that's how this event came to be. But so yeah, do that bit of just like going LinkedIn, cold emailing. Everybody mentioned the power of connection, but I don't think that was emphasized more so when at least we were in Chaffey. We weren't told how crucial networking is. So I would say something that you can take a very impactful step today for your transfer journey is just by cold texting or cold emailing, or just ask your professors who they can connect you with, and that's going to facilitate your journey and accelerate it much more.
Yeah, I'd like to speak a little bit on that. Like Gursimar said, if I didn't speak to Professor Purcell, we wouldn't have had this opportunity at all. So just making those connections with your professors is super important, and I can't advocate for that enough. On that note, we'll change to the next question. So I'd just like to ask you guys, how did you equip yourself for the transfer application, or the whole transfer process in general? Yeah, it's a bit of a big question.
Honestly, my experience was a little different, just because I transferred within a year and a half, and that was very unexpected. I came in, I think for me, like, I started 5 months later than like my original start date. I think just because it was like, I think at the time I was still not sure if I wanted to do community college. So I was already with the idea of like, I'm still behind my original class of 2018, like, you know, just telling myself all these things like, now I gotta catch up. So in that attempt, I was just taking the full-time credits, but I did have credits from high school too that were helping me with fill in the other credits that I needed. So I remember after my first year, I went to the counseling center, and I was just telling them like, hey, you know, how many more courses or units do I need before I transfer? And I was assuming like I still need another year since I was barely a year. And they were like, you could graduate like this year if you want to. And I was like, what? Like I just came in. And they were like, no, yeah, you can. So they were the one that I think they did all their part. I was just kind of there like as they were walking me. I know my counselor at the time, and also to transfer center, they were calling the universities to make sure I was able to transfer, because I think you need like 64 or 60 to transfer. So I was barely meeting that, but they were telling me even if you barely have that, let's just make sure you're good enough to transfer. But because of that, I did have to take a unit overload where I took 20 units my last semester just to transfer. And honestly, I think the transfer center and I think my counselors, because they were the one that were just telling me like, you could do it, like, okay, let's pull up your transcripts, send in this, and then proof of this. Like, they were the one that I have to thank them. You because I felt like they were the ones guiding me. I was just soaking it in and like, okay, let me make sure I check off this. So that's how I would say I kind of equipped myself, but I was just, again, checking in often with the transfer center, with my counselors, making sure I had everything ready. So I really praise the transfer center for all the help.
I guess I can go next. So I was very less strategic with this, with transfer, or being long-sighted about this, because as I said, when I came to Chaffey, I just moved from India, so I was very clueless of what the process is, what the system is. I remember going into Miss Wendy Whitney's office. I'm like, what is GPA? How does it work? How do you calculate this? I do not understand the system. So I was honestly really clueless about what I need to do, what are the requirements, all of that, and definitely the Transfer Center helped a lot with understanding the requirements. But I think one thing that really worked in my favor of my application is I wasn't, throughout my time of Chaffey, the 2.5 years that I spent here, it's kind of counterintuitive, but I wasn't always doing things for my application. I was doing things, as I said before, to just figure out what I like, what I resonate with, and what I would see myself doing long term, instead of doing things for just my transfer application. So I did very random things. I worked at Curriculum Observatory. I did the Supplemental Instruction Leader program. I did H&M. None of this relates to business directly. Space has nothing to do with business. But I just wanted to do things that I'm passionate about and figure out what my passion is. So I think that also stood out in my transfer application. So one thing I would say is, like, do things that you like and don't just do things to put on your resume or to put on your application. One, that, and then two, a tangible resource I can mention is professors. Once you do start writing out your application, again, tap into your connections, which is other students, and as well as your professors. Your professors are more likely willing to read your applications and bring in that reader's POV that you probably lack, because we know our story, but when we're trying to put it on paper, we might not do it justice. Community college students typically have the quality of selling themselves short, which I do that a lot, but I absolutely hate it. So those kind of weaknesses that we have, your professors will walk you through it. So one, use your professors, and then another thing I would say is, it's like a really side note, but it helped me a lot, so I'll mention it. YouTube PIQs that got me into XYZ. It gave me a starting point. Don't replicate their essays or anything like that. They've already read that application. They already have their in the database, so you're gonna get plagiarized if you use the same thing. But I didn't know what PIQs are supposed to have. Are they supposed to have just about things about my classes, just things about me as a student, or then I realized watching those YouTube videos was, no, it's a holistic view. You're supposed to have a very well-rounded approach. So it gave me a starting point. So there's a couple of tangibles plus an abstract of do what you like and not just for the transfer application.
100%.
Yeah, so for me, I had a lot of help from my counselors and the transfer center as well, so I didn't have to do anything on my own. I didn't have to really check my classes or anything like that. If you guys are in EOPS, that's a really good program to be in. They help you step by step to get through the whole process. I'm grateful that I had that here at Chaffey. I mean, even the application, they walked me through the whole thing. I did definitely go to the tours for universities, so if you guys ever get the chance to go on a tour with Transfer Center, I definitely recommend it, because they do PIQ workshops there too. They'll take you around the whole campus. They give you a lot of good information on the campuses. So honestly, it was a very easy process for me because of Chaffey and the resources they have. But definitely meet with your counselor. Make sure you're checking. Make sure you have all your classes, and definitely go into the transfer center to make sure that you're on track to applicate for the applications. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about the process at all, just make use of your resources. We at Chaffey are here to help you with anything you have. If anybody wants to, there's 2 seats that open up. If you want to scoot closer. 2 So our next question is very open-ended. You can take this as a student or just as a person, kind of like how you mentioned holistically reviewing yourself. But what is something that you wish you had known sooner? Yeah, if you need a second to think, that's fine.
I'll share. I think, like I said earlier, one of my questions, don't compare your timeline with other timelines. Like, just when I first came, I was always like, I'm so behind, I need to catch up. And I think I was just, like, trying to go on the timeline based off, like, society, like, graduate within 4 years, then find a job, then, grad school. And I learned that while you're trying to do that, you also don't enjoy the process. I love looking back at my memories from community college to grad school to undergrad, and like I really wish I wasn't in that like time of like I need to just do this so I could do that, because then you don't really enjoy the experience. Like I wish I soaked in more time being a student. I wish I did more things, but I also compared myself a lot with other students, like, oh my goodness, they're so ahead and I'm so behind. Like again, your timeline is not their timeline, and you don't have to go the same pace that other people do. Go at the pace that feels right with you, and that's going to support you well academically, mentally, socially. That's what I wish I knew sooner.
I think one thing I wish I knew sooner, I had leveraged more, is like the amount of resources and opportunities that are available externally as well. I feel like I was very in touch with the internal resources that were available during COVID, which at the time were a bit limited or not as accessible, but externally too, there's so many corporations and companies, big names like Microsoft, KPMG, PwC, all these big companies that have programs and internships catered just for community college students. And those are some of the programs and internships I wish I knew sooner. Just even the name of you being a student, that tag of that, hey, I'm a student, I go to this community college, I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to even be a shadow at your workplace. Yeah, that goes a very long way, because you would be really surprised in how many people that are actually willing to help and go out of their way to just help you get your foot in the door is enormous. And that's something that I didn't realize, and that again goes back to the power of connection, the power of networking sort of thing. We see a theme here, but I would say cold email if you don't see a program already established, but doing a quick Google search, community college, internships for community college students or internships for freshmen, sophomore. I wish I'd known about internships sooner. I saw when I went to Berkeley, I saw these, feeder schools, feeder community college like De Anza, there's another one up there, but GBC. Their students already had internships on their resume from EY, Microsoft, Google, all these big names, and I felt such an imposter syndrome, like there's no way I can compete with them. And those are some things that weren't as heavily emphasized at Chaffey at my time, that hey, internships and externships and again external opportunities and actually getting hands-on experience is really, really valuable, and that's what gets you an edge over. I would say use that tagline. One, look into already existing programs, and two, if you don't find any, I was telling Aram this earlier too, he wants to be a chef. I don't know if you shared that. I don't know if I'm supposed to share that, but I just did. So he's like, oh, there's no programs and internships for that, but all he really could do is cold message somebody, like chef or mom and pop shop, and be like, hey, can I just shadow you? And that on your resume is gonna, not to say classes aren't valuable, they are, but they're not replaceable for the hands-on experience and skill set you learned there. And there's going to be opportunities people create for you as long as you're reaching out. So reach out.
Absolutely. And just before we move on, I've had a lot of experience with reaching out to UC Berkeley transfer students, because that is the school that I'm very interested in. And they're always willing to help. They know exactly how it feels to be in community college. So their experience is meant to be spread out, and the wealth is meant to be spread between those that, where they've come from,
For me, I guess on the engineering technical side, definitely be hands-on and practice every day. I mean, don't just do it during the semester. I mean, if you guys are anyone's trying to do engineering programming, I'm realizing now that the times where I was taking a break or was like, oh, okay, I have time to breathe, I should have been more active and like, okay, let's this is your career, so you need to realize that one day you're gonna use this as a job, one day you're gonna actually intern, and if you don't know what you're doing, then it's gonna backfire on you. So it's definitely try to practice every day, try to use your skills every day. Something also I wish I knew sooner is don't let other people influence you or tell you, hey, you can't do that, or hey, it's too hard, or hey, this is not possible, because a lot of people told me that when I was starting off, and then I ended up doing it. So whatever you feel like doing, whatever in your gut, you're like, okay, this is something I want to do, even though it's hard, or even though I think it might take a while. If I work hard at it and I keep going, you can fail. I mean, honestly, failure was a big thing for me. I learned a lot from it. So don't take failure as a bad thing. It's always a learning point for everybody. I learned more from failure than I did from actually, success. So definitely recommend you guys don't give up. Just because you get bad grades doesn't mean it's the end of the world. I remember getting like an F one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. I'm not gonna be able to transfer. I'm not gonna go to university. So, but it worked out. So, never give up and keep trying hard. And like they said, don't compare yourself to anyone else. And honestly, you might meet other people that are going through the same thing as you. If you guys connect with other people, other students, you guys will realize that they're going through the same thing. It's not just you. There were times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one struggling in my classes. No, there were other students that are like, you should not be, doing this workload. It's hard. It's hard for anyone. So, sometimes just take a step back and realize you don't have to compare yourself to anyone, and you can go at your own pace. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then next, we just like to ask, this goes back to your roots. What is your why for transfer? A lot of us, we keep in mind our time at Chaffey. What's our inspiration for having these big aspirations and shooting for these dreams? We just like to ask you guys what that was for you.
I'll go first. My why for transferring and my aim at the time was, I realized that I needed access to a platform that was much bigger, that would open doors of opportunities for me to go into the business world and enter the business world equipped with skill set that I would be able to add a valuable asset on the table, every table that I sit at. And to me, even when I was at Chaffey, sure, I went to Berkeley, whatnot, but Professor Purcell could be a witness to this, and Miss Wendy Whitney. I never ever thought of certain schools as prestigious and certain schools as not prestigious. For me, I just wanted to go to a good program, and that my what's it called? TAG, right?
TAG.
The guarantee. I did it to, I think, UC Riverside or UC Davis, which is again not a great school, so to speak, when compared to others. People would say that now. But I love those programs. Why? Because one, their proximity, their program, the people that I met before transferring, the people that I've talked to, their faculty, their professors. So once, I would say my why for transferring was just to take the Chaffey name and the things that I learned from here, and then go to a platform that would get me more access to opportunities. Again, and that ultimately to make more impact. Ultimately, it is to touch more lives, to make lives better. The reason why I chose finance consulting again is, sure, it is a very corporate America job, and it's nowhere as impactful as therapy or foster care, but it is to problem solve and make someone's life easier, even if it is your 8 to 5. I also do nonprofit world. I lead a nonprofit organization, and there was a point that I felt like I'm not propelling it forward as much as I should. So I go out in the world, I upscale, and then bring something back to the community. That was my why.
I can go ahead and share. I think for me, my why has always been I definitely want to do something out there and make purpose of the life I've been given. I think a lot of us, we come from different backgrounds, different experiences, where I think I came from a very poverty background where unfortunately I didn't really get my life serious until maybe high school, where I was just I actually have to do something with my life. I don't want to continue this poverty cycle of where I'm living at. My family background. Like, I definitely want to make a name for myself, but I also want to make other people feel that there's purpose in their life. And I think when it came to Chaffey, that's where I really identified, like, there is a why in me, and there's people that are believing in me. So I definitely just wanted to be a great use with my life and be a great asset for other people, and I think that's what ended in me, like, because when I first came here, I think I was undecided. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I took those classes of, like, you know, what interests I wanted to do. I think I was struggling between psychology, sociology, and communications, and ultimately I ended up going to sociology, and I really loved it. I mean, I found that through community college, and I think when it comes to even just like going into school, you kind of think like you have to know what you're doing, but you don't. It's okay to be lost. It's okay to switch your major. Explore. Literally, it's okay to explore. So overall, just my why is just to be purposeful in life and make other people feel that they have purpose in their life too.
Yeah, so for me, I see it as levels in my life. So similar to her, I came from a hard background. I didn't grow up in the best area. It wasn't the best schooling. I grew up where there was like teachers that were like, you're not going to graduate, you won't even, you know, you're not going to do anything with your life. It was very much that kind of area where I grew up. So it got to when I decided to go back to high school, I was like, okay, I can do this. I graduated high school, and then I got a scholarship, and they're like, okay, what am I gonna do with the scholarship? I gotta go to college. Okay, now I'm at college. Okay, you're gonna get your degree. What are you gonna do after your degree? Every point in your life you're getting somewhere, they're like, okay, what's next? And you don't see it in yourself, but there's other people around you like, hey, you know, there's levels you can keep going up, you can keep growing, you can keep building. And I think I do it to prove it to myself that I can do it, that I see other people around me doing it, and I'm like, you can go a little bit higher, you can get your bachelor's, you can get your master's, you can do whatever you set your mind to. I mean, it's not impossible. Even if you get a no, it doesn't mean you won't get a yes from somewhere else. So I think I do it to prove it to myself that I can do it, and to prove the people that told me that I couldn't do it, I can do it. So that's really my why, and also because of my daughter. So I have a daughter, and I want to prove to her, hey, you can do it too. It doesn't matter where you grow up. It doesn't matter, you know, anyone discourages you, any you know, mountains, you can just keep going. Yeah. Thank you.
And our final question is pretty open-ended. We just like to ask you guys if there's any additional advice that you'd like to share that wasn't covered here, or even something that was covered here and you want to reiterate just to drive it home.
I think I'll touch on a little bit like what you said a little bit earlier, where like take advantage of like maybe even finding internship or network experiences. I know from a community college level, I think when I was in community college, I and even at my college when I ended up going to UCLA, they did have a lot of internship experiences, but obviously those are also at times they could be very like on a priority basis, like who comes first, or you know, there's a lot of factors. So I would say if you don't find any opportunities at school that you feel could advance your career, find those in jobs. So one thing that I took advantage when I was at community college, when I was at my grad program too in my undergrad, during like the summer breaks, I would just find jobs that were gonna lead me to my career. So I work as a therapist, but prior to becoming a therapist, I started working in like similar jobs that would get me that clinical experience. So I started doing ABA therapy. I was getting experience with like taking note takings, documentation, working with clients. I was working as a supplemental instruction leader here at Chaffey, where although that might not be therapy, you're still building that connection with professors, with youth, working with them. So all the experience that you have, even if it's not necessarily related to your ultimate career, it's still going to be related, and somehow you're going to use those communication skills in your job. You're going to use that one-on-one communicating with other faculty, other third parties. Like that goes a long way. So definitely take advantage of, like, again, if you don't find experiences, then maybe try finding that in a job, even if it's during the summer. Take advantage of that. Another thing too that I would say, take advantage of like summer classes. Like honestly, summer classes, I would take advantage of them here at Chaffey just because one, it's cheaper. Two, maybe you're financially able to cover it. But if you're already here, take it, you know, maybe sacrifice that summer to catch up a little bit so that future you could thank you and you could enjoy a trip and enjoy some time in the future, because it will help. And that's one thing I always took advantage. Like if there's another class, if I could have another class for my next semester, take it.
I think one thing I would add is just something I observed in CSU students and within us is we always say the statement, "Oh, I'm waiting to be transferred out," or the world tells us a little bit, it like downplays the amount of resources and opportunities community colleges can provide. So I would say, one, you're not waiting to transfer out. Try to be more intentional with your journey at Chaffey. You guys are at an amazing school with amazing alumni, and I mean, you guys have great resources on campus. So one, leverage that. And I think two, another thing I would say is second Vianey's point is just to give a little bit of insight onto the rigor, or I guess like how fast the world is once you do venture out into universities. Is people are thinking about their summer internships a year ahead of time. So try to think ahead of time and try to be more strategic. Think of your time at CC as a strategic investment, and try to use it as a launch pad into wherever you want to go. Try to venture out of classes now. I would say something that I didn't realize is how many more opportunities and how much more I should be doing outside of classes, such as extracurriculars and so forth. I mean, now I see a lot of amazing clubs popping up. So thank you for making the business club. I always wanted that. But yes, I think I would just double down on keep yourself up to maintain that rigor that you're going to be seeing when you go to universities.
Oh, yes, definitely. When you're transferring, go to the transfer center. Yes, it's very helpful. I keep mentioning it because it's helpful. And then, like she said, go get out to clubs, look into internships, your resume, build that up. Definitely, because I'm only in my second semester. I already have friends that are planning. They already have internships. They're already gonna have jobs by the time they graduate. So it's like you think you have time, but you really don't. It just catches up to you really quick. So definitely build up your resume, look into internships, look into jobs, connections, even your friends and your classes. There's a lot of friends in your classes that already have jobs, certain places they can get you internships. That's how my friends do it sometimes. So it's what she said, basically just get into clubs. Right now I'm in the robotics club, so that's exciting for me, and I know it'll look good on my resume as well. So definitely look into things like that when you're in the university.
I think I'll add one more thing. I know as we're sitting here and we're talking about all these amazing things, it's very easy to like assume that we had it always figured out. We didn't. I remember I came in very, very clueless. I was born and brought up in India, moved here, and I was very set on I want to be an astronaut. And I took aerospace engineering, not having any clue what aerospace engineering really means. Then I realized aerospace engineers make the spacecraft, but they don't actually go into it. So yeah, and then I was like, all right, now there's some redefining to do. Now I got to go explore. And the reason why I said Chaffey provides you that room of failure, which is really, really important, and nowhere else in the world you'll find that, is because I remember my career counselor, instead of being so like, you got to get this requirements done, she was like, take the semester off. Go do whatever you want to do, go figure it out. And the only thing I did that semester was take Professor Purcell's class, and that's how I ended up in business. So even if it means taking time off, but still you're working on yourself, that is you setting yourself up for success. As long as you're working on yourself, and as long as you're framing your mindset and stimulating yourself intellectually, that's what matters the most. Whether it's in class or whether it's outside class, or you find your own way to do it, that's the one that matters the most. So we never had it figured out. I still don't have it figured out. I don't know where I'm going next. So yeah, that's something I'll be doing.
Just before we move on to our Q&A session, let's give a big, big round of applause to our alumni. And then keeping in tune with wanting to spread the knowledge and spread the wealth to current community college students, we open the floor to you if you have any questions to ask our wonderful alumni panel.
Gursimar, that one semester where you only took Roussel's class, did that ever feel like you were like set back by any chance?
Yeah, the devil on my shoulder told me that every single day, multiple times a day. That one semester off is what pushed me back a whole year. But I think one thing I told myself is, even when I was taking that one semester off, coming from a brown family, they're like, "Are you sure you want to do this? You want to take a full semester off? You know, you can figure it out as you go through your entire, work, 12 units, however much is full time." So it did feel like that, but I would say as long as you're intentional with it, again, I would emphasize being intentional with your journey and thinking alongside it. That helps. And the reason why I was able to justify that for myself is one, again, I want to figure out what I want to do long term. And then two, one big factor for me at the time was I really wanted to go to university and have the full experience. I was doing all of Chaffey remote as virtually, and I did not love that. I'm a very in-person kind of personality, and I thrive in person. So I delayed that just so I could get that in-person experience, and the remote and virtual was kind of subsiding down the way. So as long as you're intentional with it and you know where you're maneuvering your journey to.
Other than taking Roussel's class, what else did you do during that semester to help you find what you wanted to do?
That's a good question. So other than taking Professor Roussel's class, I was also taking this elective of psychology. Those were the two fields that I wanted to try my hand in. And out of those two classes, I went with business, but the only reason it wasn't the classes that I was taking alone that helped me, I would say. It was my own research. So at the time, I didn't know about coffee chats. I didn't have any connections to tap into, but what I did was just looking up Google search and going into LinkedIn, going into YouTube, being like, what's a day in the life of XYZ engineer, like computer science, data science, business, healthcare, legal. I searched them all up. I searched some of the key factors or decision-making factors for me when it comes to profession was the salary, the work-life balance, the impact that you made, those kind of things. Figure out what are your key decision metrics for your profession, and then do your research. I think the best way to do your research is actually talking to people. That's something that I wish I knew it sooner, but at the time I just leveraged what I had access to.
I know you guys mentioned kind of the change of pace, like from community college to going into a four-year university. I wanted to ask what trait or like skill set do you feel like was often underlooked that felt like almost like a whiplash going into the university, and how would you advise like to make sure that that you don't lose like that skill or that trait? Like what's something that you had to remind yourself to like keep up with, even with like the kind of like slow, like kind of like, yeah, it's much more like, because it's much more your pace, but yeah.
I think it's like your motivation, your study habits. You gotta, after community college for me, I felt a little burnt out. So at the university, I was kind of like, I was slacking off a little bit, but I had to keep reminding myself, hey, what's your motivator? What's your why? You gotta keep going. Like, you can't just slow down. You have to keep up your study habits, connections as well. You gotta remind yourself that you have to be social. You can't just close off. And times you have to also just check on yourself, because I felt the burnout when I left community college. So I had to keep reminding myself, remember to study, remember to be organized, remember to also give yourself, self-care, grace every once in a while, because nobody's perfect. We all struggled. We all didn't know what to do sometimes, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to take a step back and be like, okay, what do I need to do to be a better student, to be a better, to have a better mindset? Because, mentally, I think a lot of students struggle and we don't realize that. And sometimes it's okay to be like, okay, what do I need to do? Who can I ask for help? How can I get help? Who makes me feel better when I'm at the university? So I usually like to get around people where they make me feel mentally okay. They're like, okay, these are my people. I feel competent. I can study with them. I feel like you need that stuff when you're in the university, especially so you don't feel alone. Yeah, definitely. You know, you gotta keep your mind right when you're in that university, because it is a lot of people and it is a very overwhelming. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say too, learn like your learning stuff. Like I think for me, when I transferred, I was semester here and I was taking a lot of units. I was always full time. So when I transferred to UCLA, it was a quarter system, which I was also a little scared because I'm like, it's a quarter system, you know, it's faster paced. And I remember UCLA was very like, you're only gonna take 12 units, which I'm like, or 3 classes, 12 units. And I was like, that's little, like 3 classes, I've been taking a lot. And no, like I'm glad that for my first year I did take them. Even it was like mandatory because they were like, you guys are transfer students, you guys need to get used to it. And I was so against it, but no, I'm really glad I did, because the quarter system is way more intense than the semester system. Like I was more on it, but how she said too, like you definitely have to prioritize that self-care. So obviously you're working with people that come from like different levels of like how they study. They could probably retain information much more, which also kind of scares you a little bit when you're like, oh my goodness, how do they get this, but I don't get this. So really try to form a connection at the college you're into, whether it's professor hours. The great thing about transferring is that usually there's TAs too. So you could schedule office hours with TAs where they'll help you. At my community college too, I mean, at my, when I was doing undergrad at UCLA, we would have like study sessions with other people. So even bring that up if you're that person that feels like they learn better with other people, do that, because we would do that at my school, where we would like all host like study sessions. We would come in, we would review like the lessons, we would just check in with each other too, and it makes you feel more supported, because again, like you need that support, but also know what works for you, because I know there's that big stigma of like students like sometimes getting no sleep and, you know, having to do midterms or finals, and I've done that, but I also stopped doing that once I like realized, okay, I can't keep doing this every day, because you also need to check in on your sleep. So learn what works for you, and again, try to form that connection and groups with other people if that's also what you feel could help you.
I'll touch on more, again, my advice is not as class related, because I'm a business major. Like it's not like you'll get to the classes, I promise. And they're hard, trust me, they're hard, but I think for me, going into Berkeley in the first week, you're getting grilled left and right. The professional development clubs are grilling you. It's harder to get into a professional development club like consulting club in Berkeley than getting into Berkeley. Like their acceptance rate is 1%, which is crazy. So you have to go through like 3 rounds of interviews and all these. So like you're getting grilled left and right by the clubs. You're getting grilled left and right by the internships you're interviewing for. And then the academic rigor is different. So I would say know your personal brand. Know what value you come to the table with, and know how to pitch yourself really well. If you can pitch yourself really well right off the bat, wherever you go, you already are sort of setting yourself up for success, because now in everybody's eyes, you're already like a good candidate for whatever you're recruiting for. So, and that's something that I wish I had known, like those communication skills and soft skills I wish I had worked on during my time at Chaffey. And I would go back to the point that I said, use it as a launch pad. Use it as, you have so much room for failure here. Again, you don't get that anywhere else. So even if it is like the most important question you're ever asked in any interview is tell us about yourself. Very seemingly simple question, but that's where all your value is supposed to be laid out on the table. And how you do that and whether you're able to do it successfully is a make or break for that job or internship. And you can't formulate those answers or do these specific things that I'm talking about if you don't very well know yourself and know what personal brand you're sort of upholding. So I would say work on your personal brand. Look it up. You'll probably find tips and tricks in much more detail there. But yeah, that's what I would say.
I'd also like to add on to that, just that piece. That's also very important in the transfer process in general. It's very multifaceted that to have that quality as you go about life. That's very important, and it will augment your transfer application as well.
The shameless plugs.
Did you guys have any more questions? All right, if that's all. I'd just like to thank our alumni once more. I really appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah, we're open to connect.
All right, all three of them are open to connect if you guys have any questions or want to get their contact information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.